These are the best tips and tricks for your favorite survivors. Well, assuming your favorite survivors are one of the ones that are in today's video. Oh, and if your favorite survivor isn't in this part, make sure to check out the previous and next parts by checking the playlist in the description. Toy Merchant. This is one of the trickiest survivors for a player to master, as her use of the catapult can make or break a team. Her kites can be infinite or can end in seconds. So how can we get better at her? You can start off on the right foot as soon as you spawn into a match by placing one catapult in a strong location near your cipher machine that you choose. This will help you if you are first chase, as you can use it mid-kite, or it could help a teammate when they inevitably transition towards your strong kiting area. I guess the question would then be which areas are the strongest ones to put them in. For that, you're going to have to binge watch some IDV YouTube. Kaharu, one of my friends, gave me these great catapult locations that you're seeing in the video right now. Oh, and remember not to hoard those catapults to yourself. They are going to be way more useful to your teammates, honestly. On that point, don't attempt to place a catapult mid-chase unless you are very, very far away from the hunter. Please don't do it. You will just give the hunter a free hit, and we don't want that at all. How about we talk about her flying ability? Similar to catapult locations, there are some incredibly strong flying areas that you can launch yourself off of on some of the maps. I am showing you a clip right now of an almost infinite loop that you can make on the big boat area in Lakeside Village. This can be done if you alternate between catapult and the window, using your airplane of course. It's kind of crazy. Make sure you consume a ton of Toy Merchant content to learn all of her unique kiting areas. Her final ability, and one of her most underappreciated abilities by far, is her ability to throw items to teammates. Knowing exactly which survivors cannot take items in normal game modes is incredibly important. You don't really want to be that person throwing a football to a seer. Also, pay attention to which item may benefit a survivor at a specific point of the match. Maybe, for example, a half health perfumer might not really want her perfumes anymore and could do with something a little bit more useful like an elbow pad. Next, we have Cowboy. Once again, one of the most difficult survivors to master properly. Let's begin with balloon rescuing, something I myself find incredibly difficult. How can we increase our chances of lassoing a teammate? Make sure to place yourself in key areas. Place yourself closer to the chair the hunter might need to approach to be able to chair them. If possible, place yourself behind a pallet or a window, as you can pull them to safety on the other side of an object that the hunter would have to interact with to be able to catch up with you. This can also be used to assist a kiting teammate, as you can lasso them towards you whilst they're in mid-kite. If you yourself are kiting, then using the window flip trick might just come up. This is something you'll often see cowboys do, and it can buy you a ton of time. To pull this trick off, you need to align yourself up with a window that a hunter is about to vault. Wait for the hunter to start their vault, and once the hunter is at the end of their vaulting animation and you've got them highlighted in red, you should lasso them and you'll go soaring above their head and through the window. This will force the hunter to then of course turn around, vault the window back again after you. Be careful though, because this can be countered by confined space, so pay attention to that. Composer is next up, and his technique and necessary knowledge that you must have will be very similar to two other survivors that I'll cover in this video. To optimize your Composer gameplay, then you should definitely spend some time learning each hunter's hitbox range. Why? This is because it will help you know whether it's a smart idea to use your speed boost ability or just to save it until later. For example, hunters like Feaster may require you to use it even when he is really far away, because he has a crazy hitbox. Meanwhile, hunters like Evil Reptilian may let you be a little bit closer to the hunter before you decide whether or not to use your skill. Another tip for his ability is to mostly use his speed boost to transition away, especially if you've just been hit or if you vaulted a window or a really strong pallet. This makes chasing very hard for some hunters, as they'll always be out of range to use their abilities effectively or to hit you with their normal attacks in some cases. Next up, we've got Thief, and there are some great tips for improving your flashlight's effectiveness in a match. Similar to Composer, you will need to learn some hunter's stats, but instead of having to learn the hunter's hitboxes, you should definitely focus on learning the hunter's vaulting speed and also pallet breaking speed, and whether or not they're taking the fast pallet breaking ability that's in their persona wear. This is because the best time to use your flashlight is whilst the hunter is locked in an animation, as you can leave a flashlight on the ground pointing at them and you can go away away as you blind them and then transition even further away than you would have without it. If you are in a strong looping area, you can place 1 to 2 flashlights down on the ground that will force the hunter to go around them, making it harder for them to follow you closely, wasting time as they circle around the object. If the hunter chases you in the wrong orientation, meaning that they never get hit by the flashlight light, then you may have to force the hunter to change directions, but this can be a little bit risky. Let's say that you just rescued a teammate, or someone rescued somebody right next to you. Now is the best time for you to use your flashlight. Aim it directly at the hunter, and this will give your teammate even more of a chance to rebound kite, as you'll be cancelling the hunter's abilities. This can absolutely destroy some hunters with one-off abilities like Bloody Queen as you cancel her mirror mid-animation, or Axe Boy as you stop them from using their fireball. Sia is the next survivor in today's video, and he's an incredibly strong survivor that can take a little bit of practice to maximize his effectiveness in a team. The first tip is one that you will see some Sias do and can save you from being hit unexpectedly. This is the crouching technique, if you want to call it that, and this technique literally consists of you crouching just before you use your spectate ability. This can help you from being found accidentally when helping out a teammate, and though it's a minor thing, it can impact some games considerably. How about choosing between when to attempt an insta-owl and when to give the owl prematurely? Even though insta-owling feels like it should be what you always do as it takes the hunter by surprise, often it's just a good idea to give the survivor an owl that will let them transition to a stronger kiting area. This will help them reposition, but they might not have been aware that you were spectating them in the first place, and it will let them replan their kiting strategy instead of leaving them in the dark. You're probably also wanting to learn a little bit about farming owls. Farming as in getting as many owls as possible. Farming those owls can be difficult though, and learning the max range you need to gain rage is a must. Moving back and forth at the edge of the rage radius is what you will often see pro Seers do. One thing you may not be aware of is how Seers pick their kiting areas, as often they will attempt to kite and loop areas with lower walls, so that they can maximize their rage gaining ability. You should definitely spend some time learning which walls you can see over and which ones you can't, and which angles you can use to look over some troublesome areas. This will really help you in the long term. The Lizard Man himself is up next, Professor. Similar to Composer, it is essential to learn the hunter's attack animations and attack range, as you learn exactly when you should and shouldn't use your shield. This of course is very obvious I think, but something to consider is not using that shield ability at all. What do I mean? If you want to maximize your survivor resources, then maybe instead of trying to shield the attack when you're at full health, leaving you with no resources or abilities for the late kite, instead you should take the hit, as it will give you a speed boost that can help you transition to a better kiting area. Now you're at half health, but you can also use your shield, meaning that you now have one resource at full health and one resource at half health, instead of possibly wasting both in the first part of your kite. Professor can also be a really strong rescuer if played correctly. When rescuing, instead of rescuing the teammate immediately, instead use your shedding ability to drop a shield in front of the rocket chair. This can sometimes trick the hunter into thinking that you're rescuing, meaning that they'll swing too early, but it will also give your teammates an extra resource as they try to rebound kite. Now we have Lucky Guy. His ability to use items is what we need to focus on here. At the beginning of a match, you may be tempted to pick a flare gun straight off the bat. Don't. Just don't. If you were going to do that from the beginning, then you should have just picked Coordinator, as her flare gun is guaranteed and you would get a much longer stun. Instead of picking the flare gun, wait until you know which hunter it is, and then use your express order wish ability or whatever it's called to get the best item that counters that hunter. Some hunters have sight-based abilities, so maybe using a pocket watch or a wand would be more effective against them. And some hunters are dependent on basic hits. For them, you should take maybe like a perfume or a football that can help you extend your kite massively. To make sure you maximize your potential in the match, it is also important that you learn to master each of the items. For this, you should spend your time researching pro player tricks for each of the characters who own those items. Using a perfume, for example, to drop from a high window and then perfuming back once the hunter's vaulted the window is a really good idea for a perfume, for example. There are many things to master about each item, and you do have access to all of them. Learning item combinations is also incredibly strong. For example, placing a mechanic doll near an exit gate to open it for you, then using your football to be able to dash all the way out of the exit gate will definitely take the hunter by surprise. Things like this are what make Lucky Guy unique, so embrace them. Barmaid is a strong survivor that can be quite risky to pick if you don't know what you are doing. So when is the best time to use your healing drink? Well, of course, immediately after you just get hit. You might be tempted to save your drink if you get hit by a quarter damage, for example, but don't. Use it to heal up that little bit of quarter damage that you just took, as the healing time will be much faster, and often those hunters that use so-called chip hit abilities do really depend on those chip hit parts of your health, so you will be able to survive a little bit longer. Oh, and if you do use your drink, make sure to use your mixing ability if you and the hunter are having like a stare off or something like that. There's no point wasting that precious time. You may also be tempted to offer your Dublin to any injured survivor that comes your way. Often the best solution is to save the Dublin for yourself instead, and then heal them up the traditional way, using your hands and back rubs. This does take longer of course, but does leave you with more resources later. One exception for this is when you are rescuing a survivor. If you practice it enough, you can actually give the rescued survivor one of your drinks as they come off of the rocket chair. This plus some body blocking and maybe some assists from your teammate might just give them enough time to be able to get healed up by the drink as they kite the hunter. Sounds like a recipe for a crazy, fantastic rebound kite. How about Postman? These tips have definitely helped me personally improve as a Postman player. Knowing which letters to send and when to use them can be a little bit scary, and most people just don't want to mess up. If you aren't playing with any friends in voice chat, or your teammates are just being a little bit quiet, then sending a kiting buff to whoever is kiting at the beginning of the match is probably the best use of your ability. Choose that instead of sending a decoding buff to someone, as having teammates kite much longer will be more effective in the long term, and of course you won't waste it by sending it to the wrong person. Also, it's probably best not to send them a letter if they've just been hit before you even work out who was kiting in the first place, because they'll probably go down before you even get the letter to them. One of the reasons you should send a letter to the kiter as soon as you possibly can at the beginning of the match is because by the time they get downed, you'll have another letter ready to send to the rescuer to give them a rescuing buff. Now, when do you use decoding letters? Your decoding letters can then be used in the late game to finish off the final cipher machines or to get your teammates out of a difficult 3 cipher machine situation. Then, when you're at 1 to 2 cipher machines remaining, you should probably send your dungeon escape letter, as this will prepare your team to be able to escape out of the exit gates just a teeny bit faster. And also a mini tip for Postman is to do your best to always send your letters to somebody else, not to yourself. You will still get all of the benefits from these letters even if you are the one kiting, and you will have a shorter cooldown due to this. With Professor, Composer, and even Seer needing to know hunter attack animations and hitboxes, you may feel a little bit lost about where to begin learning all of this information. You should probably start here with this hunter's hitbox video on the screen right now.